Hi everyone, welcome to the next episode of our Supply Chain Code. This episode focuses on startups and their ventures into the supply chain logistics industry. Let's get on to it.
Don't know if I was aware a piece was missing.
Events like this, right? There's always a reason. And one of these reasons, and today why we invited so many young startups to join us, is because we found that, or we start to realize that there are a lot of startups who are venturing into the supply chain logistics industry. Questions will come out and say, is it because we can make a lot of money in this industry? This industry is fantastically booming, and that's why we're all coming in. Or there's something about this industry that shows a lot of gaps, areas that could be improved, operations that can be enhanced. And it's actually from that logic that we actually realized that this industry is seriously, while it's booming, it's exciting, actually has a lot of gaps, has a lot of areas that can be improved. And the fact that technologies are evolving that fast also meant that there are opportunities that these young folks today have found. Right. So my plan here is basically to throw a few questions to them. In them answering the question, we could then get some ideas, some insights on what they are doing. At the same time, I actually invited this guy called Mr. Jason Edwards. Jason actually founded a company called VentureCap Insights. The VentureCap Insights collate a lot of information about startups, about VCs, money, where are the money are flowing, who is doing what and who is doing well. Actually, who is doing well, it becomes a bit of a misnomer here, but I shall not get into that. But here the fact goes is that I bring people together all for a reason, right? So one of the reasons is really for that knowledge. And that knowledge is really the sharing part that I hope could help all of us to get a better understanding of what's going on in this industry today, right? But then the other part of it is also for networking. Unfortunately, this is very digital. So in the digital part, I have all of you right in front of me. And maybe it's a privilege that I have that I learn away. I think some of you are also doing that. You know, a screen of 35, 45. Currently, we have 42 people online, as many as we can get, right? The sad part of it is that when we have 140 people sign up, you think that you should have at least 100 people signing in. But I think most people are late. It's lunchtime. When they sign up, they didn't realize it's lunchtime. And that was the other reason. Why did we choose lunchtime? I thought that because some of you will skip lunch. Maybe I was also wrong in that. Okay, so anyway, let's get started. I invited actually 5 startups with me. Right? First one, I just introduce them quickly. Later, I get them to talk about themselves. We have Kelvin Lim. He's a co-founder and CEO of a company called Trames, spelled Trames. My second person is actually Rahul. Rahul is actually from a company called Bootsync. Bootsync specializes in autonomous mobile robotics for warehouse. My third guest is actually Krishna. Krishna is from a company called Locus. Krishna is actually dialing in all the way from India. So let's hope that the network stays firm and safe and doesn't crack along the way. Jump Jason first. My 1, 2, 3, my for startup is actually Ender Jiang. Ender's company specializes in immersive technologies, the use of AR and VR. In fact, Ender's technology are also showcased in our smart technology lab. My fifth speaker for the startup is actually this guy called Elvin. Elvin, trying to get your last name correct, E or A. He says okay because he got both E and A inside there. Elvin basically is the co-founder and CEO of this company called Horleo. And then, of course, last but not least, I have Jason Edwards. Jason later will share his platform called VentureCap Insights and what that platform can be used. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me start my first question to all my 5 startups who I asked you to join this event for. And my first question really go into how do you get started in this current startup business? Can I start with Kelvin first?
Yeah, hi Paul, hi everyone. Really great to be here. So yeah, I mean, like before starting out Trames, I was working on a smaller startup, mainly bringing in goods, from China to the region. And, whilst sort of facilitating that, global trade and transportation operations, we kind of found that, hey, there's a lot of manual paperwork and the ability to kind of plan, source, make and deliver goods, right? Across borders is very fragmented and very paper-based, right? Then the opportunity kind of came along in 2019 to work with some multinationals on visibility and control towers, right? So we were lucky enough to have access to some of their war rooms, but what we found in that space, right, was that in order to escalate or deal with any of the volatile nature of moving goods from across borders, right, they still use a lot of manual processes like emails, faxes, calls, and even postal services to clear customs on time, right? So we then came together with them and their partners to create a platform to kind of facilitate, the transmission of messages. So that's where the company name comes from, right? So TRAMES. So to be able to kind of share real-time visibility and also collaborate in the sense of doing cross-organizational tasks, right? Sharing documents across their entire network. So we've been at this since 2019. Recently, we have been also working together with technology providers and legislators to kind of push the entire paperless trade initiatives. So we signed something with IMDA and AFRI back in just the 19th of this month. So that was mainly on an initiative to basically digitize the entire paper trails across, the financial network providers, informational network providers, and also physical network enterprises. So that's a little bit about us. Look forward to chatting with all of you later.
Thank you, Kelvin. Can I jump to Krishna? Same question.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here, guys. I am one of the founding members at Locus. How we ended up in supply chain, it's a long story, but none of the founding members, none of the first engineers, data scientists had any idea about supply chain per se. We actually started a women's safety application. It was a B2C application. There was an infamous incident which happened in India in 2015. We launched this application. We got some media love, but we realized that a lot of supply chain professionals were using this platform for simple tracking and visibility. And for us, that was a big eye opener because we always thought that GPS technology existed for decades before that. Diving deep into it, the amount of tribal knowledge which was sitting inside human brains and how that was used to make decisions, complex decisions, network decisions, transportation decisions, inventory decisions. It was just mind blowing that why are algorithms not playing the same role which they played in financial services, which they played in sales and marketing. And that's how our journey started. We are on a mission to create chief digital supply chain officer for large enterprises across the world. Started in 2015-16 from India, building software as a service applications for the world. We believe that data, network, and compute availability now actually makes what algorithms did to financial markets in 2005-6. We believe we can do the same thing to supply chain. And looking forward to interaction today and tell you guys all a lot more about Locus. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Let me jump to the third guy that I have, Rahul from Bootsync.
Hi, Paul. Hi, guys. Are you able to hear me properly? Just wanted to check before I start. Perfect. Yeah, great. So I think like Krishna, we didn't really start in the supply chain space. So I was a researcher in NTU for a while. I used to research in self-driving cars, robotics, industrial projects, I guess. And I used to work with my co-founders since then. So I've known my co-founders almost 7 years now. So I guess after 3 years of working together, we decided why not start a company together, essentially building robotic products for custom projects. We used to work with PUB, ST Engineering, NTU, a few universities in India as well, building customized robotic projects for them. That was in late 2017. So all of 2018, we did that. I think 2019, we stumbled upon a few warehouses, trying to figure out, is there a market for us here, especially considering a lot of automation companies around. And what we found out is that in that year is that a lot of facilities, even now, quite under-automated. We looked at Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, India as well, for that matter. And what we found out is that generally a messy warehouse, older warehouse, anything like say 30 years old, or even a facility for that matter, generally is not an ideal site for most companies to target. Then we started jumping deeper into why not automate these facilities as well. So I guess that's what we did in 2020, kind of figuring out how we could take our technology, make it more applicable for these kinds of warehouses, so we could help these older facilities get to that automation as well, which newer facilities have. That's what we've been doing the last year. So we've been growing quite a fair amount. Now we have customers, big 3PLs, big manufacturing clients in Thailand, in Malaysia, in India, and Singapore. Quite. I think last year was a bit hard for us, but at least the progress coming out of COVID is quite positive. So been a good year so far. I think we're pushing quite hard, looking at quite big increases this year. So we've been increasing our team count as well. We were 5 engineers at the start of last year. Right now, we're looking at about being 40 people in the next 3 months. So that, yeah, I hope to share more about you guys and looking forward to this.
Thank you, Rahul. Let me invite my friend Ender. Ender, can you share how you got involved in your startup business? You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, how about now? Okay, everyone, nice to meet you guys. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Ender. I'm the founder of Hyperlapse. I think for us, when we start this overall Hyperlapse business, it doesn't really start immediately from industry focus. Actually start with the concept of building an organization which runs as a hive, which you actually are able to release everyone's freedom and creativity, and they're like driven to pursue some technology advantage. So eventually, until today, we actually are quite into the immersive technology, because I myself, as a tech engineer founder, I also work in the creative industry for many years. I realized that immersive technology actually is one technology that can merge these two concepts together perfectly. Because when users talk about the technology, they also want to make sure that they have some interface, have some experiences. They can understand how the information looks like. But meanwhile, the technology involvement also requires to go more advancing in backend. So I think immersive technology has natural advantage in connecting the front-end user experiences and the backend data process as well. I think for us, when we just start with creating very simple content creations. For example, the camera in front of me. This is a camera design in the early stage 2015. As a diver, actually designed a 360-degree camera to capture the immersive content underwater. Then after a while, I think we realized that the industry is moving towards a lot of interactive simulation type of approach. They actually start to create content for this kind of device. It's a VR device, you can wear it, they have a full immersive experiences. Nowadays, this kind of a VR device is getting a lot more accessible. People can use it for simulation, for some like trainings. But now we actually also seeing a trend. It's also moving towards to something more like real time, more instant. So we are looking at the device. It's also moving towards something more lighter, more transparent. This is a Microsoft HoloLens. You can wear it. You can immediately see the the content in front of you through the retina projection. I think for us, we realize this. As we further explore immersive technology, there are always information the user want to receive as fast as well, almost real time. So for us, we see the overall trend is moving from simulation, from content, from engagement towards operation level. So when you're moving to operation level, supply chain actually is a great industry that do help us to speed up a lot. Actually, especially from the last 2 years, we've been working with a few leading logistic players in the region to actually drive training and real-time operation level of digital transformations. And that's actually for us, we feel it's quite beneficial, because they are able to improve how do they operate. They're actually able to see a clarity of information, transparency, and the collaboration purpose. I think that's where we are today. Yeah, we believe that there will be a lot more, in the future, cloud-based and like real-time based spatial information that will be living in front of you. Without that, imagine that living in the warehouse, working in the warehouse, you can see all this information around you floating. There will be something going to happen in the next maybe 5 to 10 years. That's where we are working towards.
Thank you, Ender. I left my young friend for last because he's young. Alvin, share your thoughts. How do you get involved in it?
Hi guys. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think For me, it's a bit special case now. I want to just share a bit of a story. I started in logistics. Paul always say I want to disrupt my father. So I think, I started with my family business, and then I started Holio essentially by chance. I've always been thinking about how technology can make a difference in the industry, and I chanced upon my co-founder. So that's actually kind of like my story. So I'm like a logistician trying to disrupt myself from a startup standpoint. And I think to answer the question that Paul actually started, so Holio, we're actually the Grab for container trucking. This we are the fastest growing in Southeast Asia. We're now in Singapore, Thailand, and we're opening up in a few markets quite quickly in the next few months. So stay tuned. But I think our mission here is to uplift the lives of millions of these truck drivers that you see they are powering the ecosystem, but they are actually working so hard, but kind of left behind. So very similar to Grab's ambition to use technology to change the lives of many of the drivers, but these other class of drivers that we think are being left behind. So I think that's kind of like my story. So we believe very clearly that I think every supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we feel that the truckers within the supply chain, I think we have seen the likes of many of these folks here. Kelvin is a good friend of mine, right? Trams and Holio working together. I want to work with more actually. I think so. It's good to see Ender and Krishna and Rahul, you guys here. I think at the end of the day, I feel that startups should think about working together. And I think beyond just startups trying to work together and sort of fight the incumbents, right? I think that's what we're trying to do, right? Fight the resistive older folks like Paul. No, I'm just kidding. No. No. But I think, besides the jokes aside, I think we have been trying to, I think for us as startup founders, it means the world to us in terms of validation of what we are trying to do. And we need that from the corporates. I see there are a few corporates in the room as well. Give us a chance. We might fail, but I think we are trying to bring the spirit of innovation here, right? We're trying to rethink about how logistics is, right? I recently have a staff asking me, about why are we not trying to rethink about how logistics is. Logistics in the past is forklift, is manual, is a labor, is a driver. But the future of logistics is autonomous, is AGVs, is the cool stuff that Ender was showing earlier, right? Wow, the thing is like I can play game, right? But I think if you can rethink about that, I really feel that that's what, I mean, Paul, to his credit, look at his face, right? But he looks so young, he's so young at heart. Always the youngest guy that I know. Yeah, but jokes aside, I think that's what we are trying to do here. And then just feel free to ask any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Alvin. Paul is not young. Paul is 57 tomorrow.
Wait, happy birthday.
Paul is 57 tomorrow. That's what I'm trying to say. But then here it goes, right? I think that the next question I'm going to ask you is the same. So maybe I'm going to change this question a little bit by saying that the 5 of you choose to serve this industry in some form of ways. What are the challenges and issues you face when you try to get someone to adopt your solutions? I'm going to start this with Rahul first because I know that your robots are expensive, but then I also know at the same time that it is quite useful. So maybe you can share a day of your life when you try to go to someone like, not Paul Lim, but maybe Paul Lim's brother, uncle somewhere, and they are not taking on your robots because of whatever reason. Rahul, come on, share.
Sure, absolutely. I think Alvin brought up a good point. We call it change management within your office here, but it's essentially just perception, right? I mean, when we talk to people and we say, guys, let me look at your process, think about how we can make it better. They're like, no, it's okay. It's already the best it can be. So that becomes the hardest thing for us to convince people to work with. We're trying to work with SMEs in like India or SMEs in Malaysia. That's the hardest part. I think convincing them that it's worth putting some time and effort into rethinking how they do the processes, and then kind of getting all the stakeholders in the company on board on that same idea is one of the hardest parts that we have. I think once they're on board, getting the system to work is something which is a lot easier. And I guess if they're on board, even the small hiccups along the way, it becomes easier to manage. So I think that's one of the main issues. I think second, I can't deny that cost is still a big thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it needs to make some financial sense. So I mean, if you charge these guys and expect them to deal with it, I don't think it really makes sense. So you're working on that on quite a fair amount actually. Cut the prices a fair amount. I've been trying to get a lot of leasing options for our customers as well. So they have the option to pay across 5 years, across 6 years, or 3 years, or buy upfront if they want to. We work with them on grant amounts if they want to get grants from the government. We kind of handhold them the entire way. So I guess our approach really has been that we're not a vendor giving you something, but rather think of us as someone in the journey with you. We're going to start with you from the start, figure out how we can improve your process. Maybe not better, but improve your process, kind of add more elements to it. And then think about how do we approach this in phases, make it financially viable for you, and then get through that. I think one thing I realized when you work with these larger 3PLs, the management generally pushes it down saying that, okay, guys, industry 4.0, automation, let's do this. Then the problem becomes that people on the ground, forklift operators, if they have this perceived notion that their jobs may be lost, it becomes a big pain again. We've had forklift drivers crash into our AG visits celebrating in the sites, saying that one machine is done, one job is saved. I think that's kind of mental thinking, I guess, perception as well, which we've been trying to work on, saying that you guys, again, you're not taking away your jobs, but rather complementing your jobs to make it better. So yeah, I think it's that building that mindset. We're not here to take away jobs, but rather help you do your jobs a lot better or make you more efficient in terms of how you do it. So I think that management, I guess, would be the hardest part that we deal with every day.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear the money side, and also I hear the fact that the resistance could be a lack of understanding. Maybe I go to Krishna. Do you face the same thing, Krishna?
Similar, right? I think we have been, I would say, most of a big part of our global success came in the first few years with Southeast Asia, right? I think the kind of love and attention we got from largest of enterprises. When we started, we have heard that it would be difficult to work with supply chain heads and large enterprises and to be able to prove value and all those things. Surprisingly, we got a lot of love. We got a lot of attention. I don't think so. Just to add on to what Rahul mentioned, yes, there are adoption challenges like every other tech out there. But in last 5 years, if I compare day one to yesterday, the amount of growth which the Southeast Asian enterprises have shown in terms of adoption of some of the deep tech platforms like that of ours, robotics. I mean, some of our customers are heavy into warehouse automation. 5 years back, this would have been a dream come true, to be honest. Our biggest challenge essentially doesn't lie with large enterprises. It actually lies with mid-market SME space, right? We believe, I think a lot of them want to use tech. A lot of them want to do something yesterday. They want to do something today. Dynamism in supply chain as an industry. COVID is a perfect example of a black swan event which happened and which still going on. It's disrupted a lot of companies. They should have gone ahead with faster pace of digital adoption. Unfortunately, you need to focus on saving your business and ensuring that you are able to pay to your employees and all of that. So we believe the SMEs and the mid-market ecosystem is where tech adoption for us has been a big challenge. For enterprises, we believe, as a matter of fact, some of the brands we work with, Philip Morris, Unilever, Mondelez, Nestle, they have a very, very forward-looking viewpoint, much forward-looking compared to some of the enterprises in US and Europe, right? So I would say we have been blessed to start a journey with Southeast Asia. Adoption will always be a challenge for deep tech, but I believe with incentivization, we believe with right designing of standard operating procedures, and we would be happy to share with everybody on the call on what made some of these big implementations successful for us. Yes, there is management buy-ins required. Yes, there is stakeholder management required. As a young company, we didn't know any of that, but that's not something hard to learn. And I don't really question an enterprise when they come and ask us, you are a 5-year-old company, will you be able to support us for next 10 years? I think if I were in their place, I would ask the same question. But I do believe that a lot of startups like us and a lot of people on the call today, they do have good answers. It's the way you present yourself, it's the way you give confidence. It might be time consuming, but I'm glad it worked out for us, and we'll be very happy to share those thoughts and processes with all of you guys.
Thank you, Krishna. Kelvin, you are maybe a bit younger than Alvin in terms of the life of your company, the existence of your company. What are the challenges you face, issues you face when trying to get this industry to adopt your solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I do echo a lot of the points that was brought forward, right? So I think it's a very big space, right? So supply chain is not just really like logistics, right? It's your planning, your sourcing, your manufacturing of stuff, and then finally delivering these items. So for us, I mean, the big, I would say, challenge, I think we can split into like who do we serve, right? Because like for multinationals, they tend to like to invest heavily in their technologies, but essentially, if you need to kind of like service the entire supply chain, like Alvin mentioned, right, you're only going to be as strong as your weakest link, right? So you have to be able to have this inclusive innovation approach to things, right? So for us, you know, servicing some of the larger customers, I mean, it's in three main buckets, which I think the previous speakers already covered a little bit, right? So one is, you know, if you're investing in like new technology like AI, robots, or in our case, you know, blockchain, like what is that KPI measure you're gonna get out of it? The fear of communicating or job loss is definitely there to get the buy-in from the actual users on the ground. And you know, supply chain, because it's a age-old industry, right? So there are existing interfaces that needs to exist across borders. So the ability to kind of like interface with that, and then you know be able to harmonize the data and be able to collaborate better across enterprises and even like institutions is something that is one blocker to the entire vision, right? On our themes of like say going paperless and having this inclusive innovation platform. Right. I think for some of the SMEs, I think essentially a lot of it has to do with communication and making the tech, I think, affordable to kind of like handle their short-term, I would say short-term problems, right? To get to ROI faster. Essentially, I think it's a big space. It's great to you know like network and work with all the other up and coming startups to kind of like bring this industry forward. Yeah.
Thank you. My young friend, any challenges you face when you come to this industry?
Oh, me.
Your father was the first one that tried to stop you. Then your brother here tried to stop you. I'm more like your father.
Yeah lah, you're my second father, right, Paul? Anyway, guys, I know Paul for a long time. So if I seem to be rude, pardon us. We come a long way. Yeah, but I think, you know, the challenge is always there. I think I echo the same stuff that Rahul, Kevin, I think all of us here, is that you're trying to challenge the status quo, right? And more often than not, people just don't like to change. I mean, it's a normal psychological kind of a thing, regardless which industry you're from. So at least for us, Holio, resistance aside, I'm trying to disrupt my father, right? But I think resistance aside, it's a lot of how you actually position yourself. I think the very first mistake that Holio made was 3 years ago, when I swear to God, I told the interviewer, who is the SPH person, that Dai also cannot say we are Uber for container trucking. I said, Dai also don't say. The next thing I know, newspaper come out, Uber for container trucking, xiao liao. And back then, you know, the Uber, Uber from an external standpoint, right, it looks very sexy, it looks very nice. Investors all come to me, right? But from an industry standpoint, if you are the one being Uberized, you will fight it at all costs. And one thing that I would like to share is that it's the fear. So if you can replace the fear of not knowing you, because it's very natural, when people are fearful of you, they naturally, their defense will come up. So I think I don't try to, we are 4th year doing now in Singapore already. We actually have quite a significant market share already, quite proud to say that. But I think it's a difficult journey that we have gone through. It goes back down to us as founders, right? And how we actually pitch to the, so what we do is we actually have to onboard a lot of SME taukees. I spent years in Kopitiam talking to so many of these taukees and every time they will tell you the same old grandfather story. Aiya, this one cannot one xiao di. You know, uncle, you know, confirm cannot one. You must have that as founders here, and I really think the founders here, you know, there's a lot of you need to have the absolute faith and belief in what you are trying to do, and don't get you know, tied down because people tell you say you cannot. All the more that should motivate you that you can. But I think the challenge here is that positioning. How do you position them to say that, hey, you know, we are not like Uber. We're here actually to use technology to, if you look at Grab transform taxis, right? And how can we help you to tie your customers down better? Because at the end of the day, for Holio, our vision is Southeast Asia, right? We are bigger than this. We're thinking of bigger stuff, right? What we are trying to do here is to help you guys who are being left behind. A lot of tauges, and I think to echo Rahul, right? Some SMEs are, like you said, they think that they are perfect. And rightly so. It's like what we're trying to do is tell them, those folks that have been doing the same thing, which is using our right hand to write for the past 20 years. They've been using the right hand to write. You are telling them that, say, hey, no, now your right hand not as efficient. You use your left hand to write. How do you teach them to do that? And then saying that, okay, if you use my tag, you can use your left hand to write as well as your right hand. Then you can use both hands to write, right? So I think it's a balance of both. Yeah, I think that's something that in my journey, I think it's a hybrid. It's never a 0 to or 1 kind of a game, in my opinion, for logistics. Yeah.
I can imagine your challenge. Let me ask Ender. Ender, your technology seems a bit sexy. So I'm trying to imagine that you face no challenge in selling your solutions. Ender, you need to unmute Ender.
All right. Actually, although that the term VR/AR sounds sexy, but really our challenge is to make them feel that this actually has some relevance to them, because they are also dealing with very sexy term. To them, digital transformation really is very sexy to them as well. Because we are talking to a lot of clients, when they look at our technology, they ask us what's the agenda, what's the objective they can achieve. So we always need to find this alignment. I think one of the major challenges is that whenever we find alignment, we also understand that they themselves also does have a very clear agenda of this whole transformation. Where does it go towards? Sometimes they will be working with a consulting firm to give them a whole new system like SAP system to get on board, but after a while they might not be able to maintain, and they also didn't really fully understand maybe how does it really further optimize operation, training the new people get on board. I think there's a little bit unbalancing. For example, if this organization they have a very limited tech-savvy people, like especially an IT expert, they may not be able to fully digest the system to integrate with operation level. Then for us, maybe we want to enter, we will realize a lot of frictions, because usually for the product to be deployed, especially when we are creating a new demand, we are dealing with this term called switching cost. So they actually are able to, it's very unlikely they can just immediately abandon whatever they are using to actually use a new product, unless we are talking about the totally a new demand, independent demand, independent protocol, which doesn't really cause any potential frictions with the existing system, which usually start with a business marketing department, slowly going into a training department, but very slow going into operation department. So I think for us, some of clients, they are very promising, very talented. They actually have a dedicated team. Look at how do they improve the operation data streamline. For us, it is very comfortable experience. But some other clients, they must be at the early stage. So I think the challenge really is how soon can we identify which stage they are, and actually can start to look at the alignment. Then once we look at the alignment, we also need to look at the whole user journey, because for us, interactive technology, it is still a technology users need to use. So when they use it, so they actually have a two way to use it. Either you use it as a consumer, which is very straightforward, which is just a service, which we try not to do. Another way is you try to use it as a developer, as a creator. Because for us, we actually are also providing platform for the industry users. They can use our platform. So you have to go with this very specific low coding process. So they shouldn't really feel anything they have to develop out of layman term. They have to look at anything for just a very friendly website platform kind of a system. Everything should be very user friendly, so they can get them all. So actually for us, it's this is very B2B like platform software industry, but you actually have to create something a little bit like B2C type of marketing approach, but you actually are targeting a much smaller user scale, because you're not really getting millions of users. You're getting maybe thousands of users in Singapore, maybe 10,000 in Asia. Then you also have a limited resource to push this product to this amount of users. I think for us, as a startup, balancing resource, optimize what's the most critical features to fit the niche market, to actually find the user's persona, to identify the template to build a function for them, so we can make sure that we are sustainable by serving a limited amount of users to actually scale the product. So that's one of the challenge internally. I think internally is about where they are. Internally is about how do we prioritize ourselves.
Thank you. Yeah, positioning important. Maybe I do a quick summary for the 5 of you. Quick one for me, very, very quick, as little seconds as you can get, right? Where do you see yourselves, your company in the next 18 to 36 months? Honest goodness answer if you can. Elvin, start with you.
Fingers crossed I don't die first. I think that's the real reality, right? Startups end up dying, 1% survive. But I think I'm confident, right? All those here will survive 18 months time. For us, stay on, focus on our vision, Southeast Asia. So like I said earlier, we are going to be launching 18 months later. We should be live in 6 markets. And I think I have my biggest challenge as a founder is how do I launch in a new market remotely? But I foresee myself traveling. So I think that's something that will be coming up for us. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Sounds good. Ender, 18 to 36 months time, where are you?
I think now we are in 4 countries operation. Maybe in 2 years we'll be operating in about 6 countries in total. Then I think for product, we definitely want to make sure the product is more accessible in sense of allowing users to create their own experiences. That's how do we just keep scaling. I think scaling not only from the concept of doing a SaaS level, we also want to do something more like a PaaS level. So for us, we feel that eventually the next 2-3 years, most of the customers, they are well equipped with the knowledge of having some understanding of development, understanding of general open API work. So they should have this access to always be involved in developing some customized product for themselves. So for us, we are actually pushing a platform as a service. So they can use platform to create their own product. So that's something we want to roll out in the next 1-2 years.
Sounds good. Kelvin?
Yeah, I mean, survival definitely is one key consideration. But I mean, for us, we recently also did launch I would say, SME product. So really for SaaS, targeting to serve, taking the innovations from working with all these multinationals to the smaller guys, right? So of course, we are hoping to see more volumes in there. To kind of bring value, right, to I would say the less digitally progressive companies to kind of strengthen up global supply chains. Obviously for us is always about growth as startups, right? New markets, new clients, more volumes. So that's something that we are is internally pushing out. I mean, we are excited also to kind of potentially roll out an EBL offering together with IMDA and AFRI. So to at least be able to do a trial, right, to cut across maybe financial networks, information service networks, and also physical or operational warehouse networks to be able to digitize the entire document process plus a financial flow using new technologies that we can then open up and push the needle forward for this paperless future for supply chains to make it more efficient and sustainable. So yeah, hopefully we can do all of that in around 20-ish months. Yeah.
Okay, Rahul. Don't say you go back to India, but stay here.
Yeah, I mean, I think survival is on the theme for everyone. Same for us as well. I think a few major milestones for us to look into. Southeast Asia, we've been trying to expand now. I think that's one thing we'll be doubling down on next 18 months. Looking at India, Australia, and Middle East as well as markets looking to for the next 2 years. I think long-term vision really is like we're looking at how we can really simplify robotics a lot more. I think people still see robotics as a black box in terms of not understanding how it works inside. So I think one of the major things in the agenda for us is really, I don't know if everyone's aware about Scratch for programming, but really bringing down robotics system, I guess, implementation to that scale. So that someone who's even a forklift operator could work with robots themselves, set up a process and get it up and running without us being there. I think thinking of that as a long-term strategy for us to become a much, I guess, easier promotion of robotics. As one major thing, moving everything to the cloud as well. I think cloud is the way forward for us because we've been struggling with remote implementations. So trying to get everything to remote so we don't have to travel to every site we go to. But yeah, really looking forward to working with a lot of industries. Looking forward to kind of seeing different kind of warehouses to see what we can do for each one of them.
Thank you, Rahul. Krishna?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have two different axes of growth we are looking in next 12 to 18 months rather. One is the entire tech, whether it's transportation planning, network design planning, every piece of software we have built, it was built with Southeast Asia at its core. All the challenges, geographical challenges we face. The first axis of growth for us is going to come, how do we democratize what we have built for Southeast Asia across all the other markets, including US and Europe? So geographical expansion to other continents. And second is, can we have a lot more traditional enterprises enjoy the same success with some of the multinationals in Southeast Asia has enjoyed, right? So it's global expansion and deeper penetration into some of the largest enterprises. We are well capitalized. We're looking to grow between 6 to 8 times over the course of next 12 to 18 months. So we're in the hyper growth phase and looking forward to support from all of you guys.
You guys, it looks like even when I retire, you'll still be around because I'm going to retire in 3 years' time. So sounds good. Let me invite Jason on. Jason has something interesting to share about what is going on in the industry because he compiles such information. Jason, are you around?
Yes. Yes, I am, Paul. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let Jason share his deck. And Jason, you have the next 15 minutes.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Paul, can you allow me to be the host, please?
Oh, okay.
Oops. Okay, sharing my screen. Can everybody see my screen now? Thank you. Great. Okay, I'm going to speak quickly. I've got 15 minutes. So VentureCap Insights is a platform that I built that is helpful for both investors into startups and very helpful for startups themselves. So for the first time ever, you can see financial information about startups and the investors into startups. So I'm just showing you the screen here for the company page, that is the startups. Left-hand side, you can see the name of startups and you'll recognize many of these household names like Carousel, Zalingo, One Championship. There are thousands of startups in the platform. Just to give you some idea, it scrolls endlessly when my internet's working a little bit better. Then you can see things like the date they're incorporated to give you their age, the total funding, which is the funding, the equity they've raised in US dollars. And all of this information comes from the regulatory filings. So it's all accurate and it's updated every day. So this tells you the exact amount of equity raised. And if they raise any more money, this will update. For the first time ever, you can see the valuation of startups. Why is this important? For investors, this is actually critical to know how to benchmark valuations. But as a founder, one of the most difficult things is knowing how to value your own company. And it's very hard because startups didn't have benchmarks. Now you can see the valuation of every other startup in Singapore and many throughout Southeast Asia, and you can see it relative to their revenue and their revenue growth. This is the size of the last round, date the last round closed, and we have the financials for most of the startups. You can actually see their revenue, what financial year it relates to, how much it grew from the previous financial year, and things like the EBIT and liabilities. And you can get very detailed. So if you click on the startups, you can actually see their revenue and their valuation and funding and share price are going back for a period of time. So you can search for specific companies, or you can click on companies here and search by name. But you can search by categories. There's more than 700. So you may be focused on logistics, for example. So I could bring up all the companies in the logistics space. So obviously companies like Ninja Van come to the top. Now, if I was to click on any of these companies, this is the type of data you could get for all startups. So you'll get a brief description, categories that we use for searching and tagging, website, of course, the founders and their LinkedIn, the name of the directors. This is the board of directors and their LinkedIn. Email addresses for all founders and all directors, the name of the auditors, valuation, and then you can see the valuation here for every round. So this is the Series D, where they raised a massive $278 million. Final part of that closed last year. You can go back and see the previous rounds, the valuations, and how much they raised. And you can even see the share prices. And this is really trying to create something like public company level disclosure of private startups. Then you can see historical revenue. We go back at least 3 years, so you can see how much revenue and EBIT they have. And this updates as soon as they file their financials with the revenue authorities. The revenue authorities will push them into this platform and it will update. You can then see the cap table, every single shareholder or investor. This updates every day as well. Founders identified at the top. And you can see the exact amount invested by every investor. So you can go through and see who were the biggest investors, how much did they invest, how many shares were they allocated. We track every secondary sale, who's selling, who's buying, and you can see the percentage ownership of everyone. The last column is going to tell you the value of everybody's shares. So you can even see the value of founders' shares and investors' shares. And this is also interesting if you want to look at how well investors have performed. So we could see Monks Hill invested $9 million into Ninjavan, and today that is worth $68 million. So that investment is obviously doing very well. Down below, it gets even more detailed. It goes round by round. So you can see each of the investors in each round exactly as they invested with the share price they paid. And you can go all the way back to the Series A or the seed round sometimes as well. How you can also use this is to find companies, not just in your space, but you can use the filters to find them in different geographies. We're focused on Southeast Asia, but we do have startups from other parts of the world. You can also narrow your search by what stage the company's at, the valuation range, funding range, revenue range, and revenue growth ranges. And this tells you if the companies are still active. So if you've ever seen a platform like Crunchbase, for example, 40% of those companies are dead and people can't tell. So we separate them. Then if you're a founder, what you would be interested in is finding all of the investors who might be interested in investing in your company. We have every investor here who has invested into one of those startups. There's 9,500. It includes not just venture capital funds, corporate venture capital, it includes everyone, even angel investors like these people down the bottom here. This is how many startups they've invested in, how much they've invested at different stages and total invested. So you could look at the one by one at the investors by clicking on them, looking at their portfolio, all of the companies. This is Wavemaker's first fund, every company they invested in, the exact amount they invested at each stage, did they follow on, how that investment performs. And then if you think that investor is someone you might want to reach out to, you can click on the profile, which will give you very specific information, including the LinkedIn and email address of every single person at that fund, family office, or company. And every company they were a director of, which means they were the lead investor for those companies. So very powerful if you're trying to fundraise. You can also search for the investors by the categories they've invested in. So again, I could try logistics. There's more than 700. This is going to show me every investor in this part of the world that's invested into logistics. And if I click on any of them, it'll actually highlight just the logistics investments. So you'll be able to see what they've done. Have they backed your competitors, which you then may not want to open your data room to them? Do they follow on? What kind of check sizes do they really write? So all that information is now available. And the last thing I'll show you is you can also search for investors by name, but you can search for them too by internet slowing down, by the type of investor they are. Internet's really slowing down. So you could search for investors by whether they're angel, venture capital, corporate, private equity, etc., by what stage, what kind of sectors they invest in, what stage they invest in, and geographical focus. And this way you can get everyone that's relevant to your fundraising, and you will get many more investors to talk to, be able to do some due diligence, and be very informed about what they do. Last thing I'll show is we also send out these newsletters to keep you up to date. So this is available to subscribers and non-subscribers. So this goes out several times a week. We pick up every fundraising because we're connected to the company registries throughout Southeast Asia. So you can see all of the companies that have raised money in the previous couple of days, and then all the companies filing their financials, all the startups, so that you know what's going on and you're familiar with where the trends are, which investors are active, which sectors are getting funded. We are a subscription model, but we have a subscription that is priced just for startups. So there's a full product that's $179 a month or $1,900 a year. But for startups, we have VentureCap Lite, where you can get all of the investor information and search for up to 10 companies a month to get their valuations and cap tables, etc. And that's $39 a month. But we are offering a discount of 50% to people participating in this webinar for the first 3 months, where they can get this for just $19 a month. And I think Paul kindly will send out this one page, which will set out how you could sign up for just $19 a month if you wanted to try it out. And it will highlight just some of the things that you could find it useful for as a founder. Help you to find investors, work out your valuation, check on your competitors, and get these updates. Paul, I think I've covered it. I'm happy to stop there. Thank you.
Jason, I have a question, which I also found it a curiosity on my side. Says that frequently investment is confidential. So how does your company deal with this?
Yeah, I mean, people mistakenly think everything's confidential. All of this information is public. So in the company registry, so Singapore is ACRA, Malaysia SSM, and around the region there's equivalents to ACRA. All of these filings are open to the public. The information does not look like this in the company registry. We have to reconstruct it from raw streams of data. There is no valuation data in ACRA or any of the company registries, but all the raw data is there. We can work out exactly how much people invested, how many shares they get, which gives us the share price. We know the total number of shares, so we can calculate valuations. So a lot of people think because it wasn't so easily accessible, it's confidential. But in fact, anything in ACRA is not confidential. And that's the same for most of the world. It's just never been so easy to access it. And that's what we're facilitating.
Jason, got another question. How do you keep the revenue of companies updated on your platform?
So we build connections, I like to call it, pipelines into government company registries, or and with the revenue. So as soon as a company files its financial statements, we built the pipelines so that the authorities will push that information through to us, maybe directly from them or maybe through one of their partners. But essentially, it's coming from the either revenue authorities or the company registry. Pushed to us the day the filings are received by them.
Okay, thank you, Jason. You can unshare.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, so folks, this is almost it. What I believe is that our industry called the supply chain logistics has a lot of potential. It's very dynamic and it's extremely fragmented. Right? At the same time, I do believe that this industry has a lot of opportunity for growth, and especially a lot of opportunities for incorporation of new technologies, adoption of technologies that can lead to transformation and can lead to operational efficiency and effectiveness. But to go forward, I don't think we should just sit idly by and then hope that our startups find a way to survive. Yeah, which I like the last question that I asked all of you, because you all are confident that you will survive, which is nice. We can sing the song together, I Will Survive. And I think moving forward, it should be exciting, right? Supply Chain Asia, we will continue to aggregate, curate, and find technologies that make sense, and we'll continue to share. I know it's lunchtime, and I want to thank all of you for coming during lunchtime to join us. For now, thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, please write to me. If not, I'll see you folks around. Thank you, folks. Take care. There you have it. Okay, so with the folks that we have put together, we hope that you understand it is very challenging, not just for startups, it's very challenging for technology providers to sell their solutions and their services to this industry. We hope that all of you enjoyed the session. More to come. Thank you very much. Bye.